In the meanwhile, I will ask my co-presenter Ritu Sharma to tell us about our vision for this episode.
Kindle your true power, not just for this episode. I mean, that's the vision we have for the whole, the platform we have created, and why we are, bringing people together to advise and to share their experiences and share their stories and inspire others. Because what we believe is that we need to hold on to our true values, and that we need to live those values that have been instilled within us. Quite a lot of times during our journey, during the hardships of life, or just in life generically, when we are moving on, we kind of lose touch with our true value. We either are influenced by the circumstances, by the culture we are part of, by the pressures of personal relationships. It could be anything. And thereon, we kind of forget to keep in touch with our true self, our true values. So Kindle Your True Power aims to keep you inspired and keep you in touch with your true value, the values that actually make you your authentic self. Because how important it is to realize, to recognize that you need to be yourself at all times, and that is the only way to the true happiness. And what we need to remind each other more often is, are we actually nurturing the values that are our own values, or have we been influenced by someone else in our life or something else in our life, and we have kind of rubbed our values off and we have adapted or adopted their values, and so we have lost touch with our own. Are you keeping your flame alive? And that is very important as well. We need to keep ourselves motivated. It's very important for us to keep a tab on where we are heading towards, and how are we going to achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves, or how we are going to get to certain situations or certain things that are going to get us our happiness. So Kindle Your True Power is all about personal development, if anything. Rather than looking for help outside, we need to pour within. We need to tap into our hidden potential, fan the flame that is within us, and keep it alive, really. And that's all what Kindle Your True Power is about. Hello.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello.
Good, we can hear her now. Okay, so let's start now. Good morning, everybody. This is Sam Ritu, mentor and a coach, and burnout specialist. And I lived in Birmingham, UK. And my co-host is Ritu Sharma. She's a women's transformational coach, and she's based in Warsaw, Birmingham. We are honored to have Aamna Khokhar, a relationship coach, and we are going to be talking to her about her topic, which is this one second, I'll tell you exactly.
Our
relation with the world begins with us. So Aamna, thank you very much for joining us. Would you please tell us about your journey, which means when you started or you're completing your psychology degree? What makes you going with the teaching?
So I started studying, and I've been studying and teaching psychology for almost 20 years now. And initially I studied psychology, and I thought, about going into something quite therapeutic. But at the time I was kind of like, well, I'm not sure, what would I go into, and how would that look? And the therapeutic services can be quite heavy. So I think at that age, I was a little bit sort of, no, I really want to work with people. But you know, I want to do this in different capacities. So actually, I thought, you know, I really was interested in working with children. I was very interested in child development, and I decided that I would study my PGCE and I'd go into teaching. So I taught psychology for well over a decade, and which I just absolutely loved. But towards the end of my teaching career, I started to think very deeply about our responsibilities towards others in the world. And I'd had a couple of trips to Pakistan, which had actually left me with, you know, sort of a feeling like more needed to be done. Anyway, so in 2012, I set up a charity called Schools for Change. And it's specifically an educational charity, but we do a lot of capacity building. So we've actually adopted 2 schools stroke orphanages, one in Pakistan and one in India. Anyway, so I was doing that, and whilst I was running the charity, I used to have a lot of people speak to me about their relationships, and a lot of people used to come and ask me about introductions with people. Did I know anyone that they could marry, and you know, things like this. And it just so happened that, you know, I had to coach myself, and it just so happened that she was doing a coaching training course. Anyway, I jumped at the opportunity. I was like, this is just amazing. I have to do it. So 2015, I completed my coaching course. And ever since then, it's kind of been evolving, like what, you know, which avenue to take. And I always come back to relationships. So in the end, I thought, you know, I'm going to put all my energy into learning more about relationships and supporting people in their relationships. So that's how come I ended up a relationship coach.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So you know how you that you're understanding behavior as a. Can you hear me?
Just it's broken up a little bit again. So you said I studied behavior.
Psychology is.
Yeah. So I studied psychology and then.
So being a psychologist,
yeah,
and understanding human behavior.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to become a coach?
I think it's predominantly because I love coaching, and for me, especially with my background in teaching is very much about results. And it's very much about, you know, guiding a person into getting results. And this is what I loved about coaching, because coaching is about guiding a person so that then they can get their results. And I always find that in my mind, if I'm, you know, there's a time and a place to just stop and listen, of course. But for me, what was really valuable is to be able to help my clients achieve results, you know, and not by giving them the answers, but in the same way as teaching goes, but by helping them to find those answers themselves.
Correct.
So for me, it just sat so well that coaching was definitely the way forward.
Okay, perfect. So in regards to coaching as element in your, is that correct?
So the teaching, so coaching and teaching have similar elements. Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So tell us about your work in the charity. How you went to Pakistan, and your what I call it your to start a charity or you want a charity for?
Well, when I see these trips to Pakistan were really quite it was a journey. I never thought I would set up a charity, you see. It wasn't even in my mind. And but I went to Pakistan, and this is many, many years ago. So it was all, like a lead up to eventually what happened. And I remember we were in Karachi, and we'd gone there basically to do some shopping for a wedding. And so there we were, shopping for a wedding, being driven around and all this kind of stuff. And in the distance, as we were driving through one of the big roads in Karachi, in the distance I could see like a massive mountain of just rubbish, just on the street. And in the distance I could see something moving in the rubbish, and I'm short-sighted and I didn't have my glasses, so I'm squinting, trying to see, what's that moving in the rubbish. And as I looked closer, I realized it was a man. And the man was collecting rubbish so that he could then go and sell this rubbish. This was his life. And, I was just so very upset about the entire thing. And for the rest of the trip, I couldn't reconcile the situation at all. But I still didn't think about the charity or anything like that. And then a few years after, I didn't want to go back because, the whole thing had been quite upsetting. Mm-hmm. And a few years later, I went back, and I became very aware of, how, like a woman's role. And I was very aware that basically a woman could get educated if she wanted to. But all the women around me were basically like, of course we're going to sit at home, and because, our husbands do the work, and this is it.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to probe and say, and it's each to their own. So, if they're happy that way, then that's fine. But it got me thinking, like, what if they're not? And what do you do when you're not? Anyway, so again, I was like, oh my God, this is too much. What's going on here? And I went back, and out of the blue, eventually, at some point, somebody said to me, if you were to die right now, what would your legacy be? And I think all those experiences and those trips and things I'd witnessed, not just in Pakistan, but in other countries as well, I just said, I think my legacy would be that I'd have a school. Literally from that moment onwards, it spiraled by itself. And over the years, what I've noticed is that the whole thing is bigger than me. So because my background is in teaching, I've got no background in, how to set up charities or, running like a business and all this kind of stuff. But I don't need it because it runs itself.
Yes.
And, now like we've got volunteers, and we've got an event coming up, on the 3rd of March. And, so we're going to be talking to people about what we're about, what we're doing. And the work seems to progress by itself, which is, it's quite amazing. So there's almost like I think when you set an intention, there's a higher being that takes care of stuff. You can call it the universe or energy or whatever you want to call it. But there's something that carries you through in order to get things like this done.
Absolutely. I was saying about the intentions. The intentions which you suggested that when you looked at your life and you created an intention to create a charity.
Yeah.
And that was your legacy to be remembered after you have gone from this life.
Yeah.
So that's what I was saying earlier, that everybody should create a clear intention.
Yes.
To achieve something in their life.
Yeah. and it could be big or small, you know, and it doesn't. And I tell you what else occurred once I'd set it up. You don't care if you're remembered or not. All that matters is, did you make a difference to somebody else's life? So you don't necessarily have to set up charities or do anything, you know, it could be bigger, it could be smaller. But the question that, you know, I think it's important that we should all ask ourselves is, have I made an impact, a positive impact on someone else's life? Because, you know, these things, who knows, like when I'm not here, who knows what will happen to the charity. But what I would like to know is that some words that, you know, I imparted to these students, or something that I did for these students, or, you know, assisted these students, actually had a positive impact on their overall life. And to be honest, the rest of it you just don't really worry about.
Very true.
Very true.
So I genuinely believe that our entire experience of our world is being created from within us.
Okay.
Because if you imagine that, you know, our brains have to go through, like, as we are formed, if I was reborn, I probably wouldn't have the same brain and personality and so on as I do right now. So what does that tell us? That tells us that actually our perceptions are very much subject to our surroundings. So if our perceptions are subject to our surroundings, then we know that they are also subject to our experiences and so on. So we know that we can actually recraft how we perceive our surroundings. So let's say, for example, if a person is very depressed, because they believe that people don't like them, they believe that they have no control in the world, you know, and various other things that will likely go with depression. So if we start to believe that actually our world comes from within us, then it's a matter of changing those perceptions and those ideas and the way that we actually process information that's coming in. So it's not, you know, we're not broken, we're designed to be healthy.
Yeah.
And the way to be healthy is to consider our processing mechanisms. So we have our answers, you know, within us already, which is why I love coaching so much, because, you know, it really is about getting a client to think about, you know, the answers that are already there, because we do have a sense of understanding of what is healthy, and we just need some guidance into being able to, you know, to use those skills, place those skills in our minds so that when situations do come up, we reinterpret in a different way. We don't just go to our default. So I think also, like, you know, once we start to develop a real awareness of how we are thinking, then we can control it. And I think actually that's really important to do. So as adults, you know, I think this isn't a skill that, you know, we're necessarily just sort of, you know, we're not born with, we're not necessarily just handed. It's a skill that we have to develop. And I think that's where sort of self-development work really, you know, is just so important. I think also, you know, when you start to realize that the world is created from within us, you suddenly, let's assume you've not done it before, and you suddenly wake up and realize, actually, I'm the one that is completely responsible for my world. Your whole world starts to change. And that's with nothing. No, you've done nothing except that actually your world is your responsibility. So let's say you've got dynamics. Let's say you've got dynamics with, you know, somebody at work, and, you know, things aren't going well. You're not really sure what to do. You know, whatever X, Y, and Z is going wrong. Well, when you start to think, actually, I'm the one that is responsible here, my world is coming from within me, suddenly you're going to be looking at the situation in a completely different way. Looking at the situation in a different way is going to cause you to have different thoughts about it, different feelings about it, and therefore different actions. And that sets your life on a different path, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Lovely.
You know how you said
So I genuinely believe that our entire experience of our world is being created from within us.
Okay.
Because if you imagine that, you know, our brains have to go through, like, as we are formed, if I was reborn, I probably wouldn't have the same brain and personality and so on as I do right now. So what does that tell us? That tells us that actually our perceptions are very much subject to our surroundings. So if our perceptions are subject to our surroundings, then we know that they are also subject to our experiences and so on. So we know that we can actually recraft how we perceive our surroundings. So let's say, for example, if a person is very depressed because they believe that people don't like them, they believe that they have no control in the world, you know, and various other things that will likely go with depression. So if we start to believe that actually our world comes from within us, then it's a matter of changing those perceptions and those ideas and the way that we actually process information that's coming in. So it's not, you know, we're not broken. We're designed to be healthy.
Yeah.
And the way to be healthy is to consider our processing mechanisms. So we have our answers, you know, within us already, which is why I love coaching so much, because, you know, it really is about getting a client to think about, you know, the answers that are already there, because we do have a sense of understanding of what is healthy, and we just need some guidance into being able to, you know, to use those skills, place those skills in our minds so that when situations do come up, we reinterpret in a different way. We don't just go to our default. So I think also, like, you know, once we start to develop a real awareness of how we are thinking, then we can control it. And I think actually that's really important to do. So as adults, you know, I think this isn't a skill that, you know, we're necessarily just sort of, you know, we're not born with, we're not necessarily just handed. It's a skill that we have to develop. And I think that's where sort of self-development work really, you know, is just so important. I think also, you know, when you start to realize that the world is created from within us, you suddenly, let's assume you've not done it before, and you suddenly wake up and realize, actually, I'm the one that is completely responsible for my world. Your whole world starts to change. And that's with nothing. No, you've done nothing except that actually your world is your responsibility. So let's say you've got dynamics. Let's say you've got dynamics with, you know, somebody at work, and, you know, things aren't going well. You're not really sure what to do. You know, whatever X, Y, and Z is going wrong. Well, when you start to think, actually, I'm the one that is responsible here, my world is coming from within me, suddenly you're going to be looking at the situation in a completely different way. Looking at the situation in a different way is going to cause you to have different thoughts about it, different feelings about it, and therefore different actions. And that sets your life on a different path, I think.
Yeah. Lovely.
You know how you said
He's for
us to have
with ourselves.
with ourselves.
I heard, you know how you said, and then it crackled. So let's, you'll have to say it slowly, and I'll interpret.
how important
it's important
for us
to have
a relationship with ourselves.
Yes.
So there must be
There must be ways.
enhancing that.
There must be ways of enhancing that.
Oh
yes, loads. I mean, I think, with something like that, coaching, I'd say, is, one of the most important, because it encourages you to look at the structures within your life. It encourages you to look at how your life is mapped out in the first place. So how you've actually mapped out your life. It encourages you to look at your priorities. It encourages you to look at what you're giving your time, your attention to. It encourages you to look at illusions that you've created that you might be living by that are not necessarily helpful. It banishes fears. It helps you to overcome obstacles. So I think it's actually extremely important to have a relationship with yourself. Because if you've got a relationship with yourself and you've got an awareness of that relationship, you have a better relationship with other people. Now, I would never encourage navel gazing. I don't think that we should just hermit ourselves and only concentrate on, our internal selves, etc., etc. Unless, of course, you're Buddha or you're a saint, in which case, please go ahead, because those wisdoms are amazing. But for us, daily, normal
journey. And what's your achievement going to be?
Well, at the moment, with regards to the charity, we're basically, so how it works is that we adopt schools. So, for example, in Pakistan, there's a school/orphanage that we've actually adopted. And Schools for Change actually has its own curriculum, which we're trying to get accredited now. And it's a curriculum that we designed ourselves. And the purpose of the curriculum is that the students that study the curriculum, they gain skills that allow them to compete on a global platform. So they'll have IT skills and English skills that allow them to possibly get jobs, around the world. So we see a lot of outsourcing, and we attempted outsourcing in different countries just to see what it's like and how it works. And we found that, in Pakistan, there was a difficulty in the way that, we accessed people to do the stuff, but they couldn't necessarily understand what we wanted them to do and so on. And we did the same thing in India as well, but the result was a little bit better. So we thought, okay, so we need to design something. We didn't want to just educate children and say, great, here's your certificate, bye. Because we just don't feel that gives them something long term. We wanted it to be like a lasting impact. And sometimes the children that we work with, they need support till the very end sometimes. Anyway, so we designed this curriculum, and the aim is that they get an education and they get a job at the end of it. But what we found was that the organizations that we go into to work with, they actually need a lot of capacity building first. So, for example, they need computers. So we built computer labs. Our aim is now to build computer labs. We've done one for the boys' side in Pakistan. We need to do one for the girls' side, and to do the same thing in India. And then we want to expand into Bangladesh as well, so that we've covered all three of the countries, and to do the same thing. So we go in, capacity build, give them the computers, the resources, the teachers, the teacher training, and then we can start delivering the BPO, which, hopefully has a lasting impact on their lives. So that's the aim. with the charity. And like I said, we've got an event coming up on the 3rd of March called the Spring Soiree. So we'll be doing a lot of talking about what we've been up to in detail. And then for the coaching, so I've been thinking about, so we, the one-to-one coaching is a given. But I've been thinking, like, people have different styles of learning. And some people like one-to-one work, and some people struggle with one-to-one work. Some people prefer to do the work quietly and somewhat privately. So, and some people prefer to work in groups because they like to bounce off other people. So I've got a workshop coming up at the end of March on finding love. This is one that I've actually delivered before, and it's been very successful. So lots of people are very much interested in this particular issue. And so I've got like a number of workshops that are going to be coming up, which again on the website you can see what's coming up and when. But the other thing that I'm going to be doing is creating e-learning modules to go with each of these workshops. So you've got people who want to do one-to-one, and that's great. You've got people who want to do cover the same topic in a group, and that's covered. And then you've got some people that want to cover the same topic but in private. And then for them, I'll be creating the e-learning modules. So that's the charity and the coaching side. Lots to do.
That's it.
That's excellent.
Very,
very good.
You did
a fantastic job.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Basically, when I set up the charity, I had a lot of people, like I said, they used to ask about, if I knew anyone eligible. And I found that, there seemed to be a lot of people that would ask me if I knew anything, if I knew anyone, if I could do introductions and so on. And I started running events where, I'd run mini little carousel workshops that would encourage people to talk to each other and engage with each other and so on. And it allowed me to collect lots of anecdotal evidence on what was going on out there, what the situation was. And to be honest with you, I thought it was really important to support other people with this, because I've been in that position myself and I understand what it's like. And I thought it's my responsibility to see whatever I can do to help. And that's what led me to create the workshop. So whatever evidence I'd collected anecdotally from what was going on, I then did lots of research and looked into what's the best way to encourage people, to overcome these obstacles and meet the one. I also had coaching myself, and this was one of the issues that we covered, and I learned a great deal from my coach. So I collected all of this together and put together the workshop that I've actually delivered a number of times now.
Fantastic. That's quite yourself, because without the coach, I think you are not getting enough support.
Yeah.
To go to the next level.
Yes. And also sometimes what happens is when you are in a situation, if you're stuck in a particular situation and you talk to other people that, sympathize, you end up in this cyclical conversation where you're kind of talking about, the negativity of the situation. And actually we know that, if you keep talking about the same thing in a very negative way, it's only going to attract more negativity. So
Correct.
I think it is really important to, to speak to the right people and, and source out the right people to guide you on not just this journey, but any journey that you might be on, really.
Very true.
Very true. Very true.
So where does happiness reside, and how can it be
attained?
Well, I think happiness really resides in us. And I genuinely believe that, because it's like, say, for example, if I start to think about something I really love. So like, for example, I love birthday parties. So instantly when I think about birthday parties, it just makes me smile. And, you know, and everybody that knows me knows I love birthday parties. So where's that come from? I'm not sitting in a birthday party. I'm not going to one. I haven't been to one. There's no plan for one. But I'm happy because I'm thinking about something that really does make me happy. So happiness isn't this elusive thing that is out of reach somewhere and we have to attain it, and it's this big. No, it's little things all the time. It's about looking at your life and being grateful for the things that you do have. Like, for example, my husband and I make a gratitude jar. So we actually have a jar in our living room, and on it we have Post-it notes. And on the Post-it note, we constantly write about the things that make us really happy and that we're grateful for. And then at the end of the year, we open it up and we read everything that we wrote about all of the things that, you know, we were really grateful for. And what we always find, what we're grateful for is what we generate. So if I'm really grateful for X, I will have more of X in that year. And we've been doing this for a couple of years. So, you know, you can see the pattern coming up. But happiness is something that I think you don't take a holiday to find happiness. You don't buy a car or clothes or a house to find happiness. You find happiness in your day-to-day life, in, you know, the conversations that you have, in seeing someone smile, in making someone smile. This is happiness. And I think, you know, we've become a society, we focus on the big stuff. And the assumption is that that's what makes us happy. And, you know, in my personal opinion, I think, you know, those are momentary happinesses, and true happiness is developing an attitude that is grateful, and looking at people with kindness. Because when you look at people with kindness, you can't help but be happy. When you look at the fact that they have good intentions, that they are there just like you were there. They deserve love and regard just like you deserve love and regard. And I think these are the things that make us truly happy.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. You have to have gratitude.
Completely. Totally. It's one of the things that I think I rely on quite a lot. If I'm ever feeling a bit glum, all I really need to do is sit down and think, what am I actually grateful for? And, you know, it switches the mood just like that.
Yeah, I completely resonate with it. Absolutely. Thank you, Aamna, for sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure.
It is a pleasure for us to have Aamna Khokhar,
It's been a
relationship coach. And our sponsor, Jennifer Beam & White.
Thank you.
She is a specialist in freedom therapy. And what Aamna has shared with us is quite a journey which she has gone through. And in every aspect of her journey, I think the gratitude was her strength. And for everybody who has been listening to us, we are very grateful to you and been supporting us. There were some technical issues which are I think known to our technology we use. But rest assured, for future episodes or segments, we are going to make sure that our is better. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was being just frozen.
Yeah. Just for a moment.
Yeah, to her website.
Sure.
So people who would like to connect with Aamna, they can connect directly via the website. And about this charity function, is it held in London?
Yes, it's going to be at the Fairway Pavilion on the 3rd of March. The link is very easy. It's just Spring Soiree 2018 at eventbrite.co.uk. And then you can read a bit about the charity.
Please share with us so we can add that.
Yeah, sure. So I'll send you the link.
To our segment.
Yeah, I'll send you that link. And then my website is easy again. So it's just leadcoaching.com.
Yeah, we got that.
But I'll send you those details.
Thank you, Aamna. So thank you everybody for watching us.
Thank you.
This is Kindle Your True Power with Sam and Ritu. And today we had our guest, Khokhar. And it was sponsored by Jennifer Pigment White. And we are looking forward to another guest who is going to be phenomenal as like Aamna. And he will be sharing a lot of wisdom with us. And everybody who has been mentioning their comments on this feed, we will be looking at it and we will answer them. So thank you very much once again. And goodbye for now.
Thank you.